So you wanted to get to the bottom of some of the big ideas in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we took a deep dive into all those excerpts you highlighted. And I gotta say, some really interesting stuff in there.
Yeah. It's amazing how Peterson can connect all these different ideas.
Yeah.
Like from lobsters to...
Lobster.
Yeah, to like fairy tales.
Okay.
To like really get at what it means to be human.
All right, so we're gonna unpack all that.
Yeah.
And hopefully give everyone listening some tools to like take control of their lives.
Yeah.
Build some strong relationships.
Absolutely.
Find some purpose in this crazy world.
Yeah.
And I think a good place to start is with one of Peterson's most well-known analogies, which is lobsters.
It's a good one.
Okay, so what's the deal with lobsters and humans?
Well, Peterson points out that there are some surprising parallels between the social structures of lobsters and humans.
Okay.
We're both hierarchical creatures.
Sensitive to status and prone to these dominance disputes.
Yeah, you don't want to get in a fight with a lobster.
No, you don't.
They're pretty scrappy.
They are.
And I think it's interesting that Peterson talks about the same neurochemistry being at play.
Exactly.
In both species.
Yeah, so he describes how a lobster's nervous system reacts to victory and defeat.
Okay.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
A losing lobster will actually shrink physically
Whoa.
while the winner grows.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just crustaceans.
Okay.
The same neurochemical processes are happening in us.
Really?
Especially involving serotonin.
Okay.
Serotonin plays a huge role in our mood and behavior. So that surge of confidence you feel after a win, or that slump after a loss,
Yeah.
that's not just you,
No.
it's biology.
So it's like this ancient,
It is.
hardwired drive for status.
Yeah, we're constantly navigating that social hierarchy.
Okay, so we're all walking around.
We are with this ancient lobster brain.
We got that ancient lobster brain in
It's
us.
making us, you know, want to win.
Yeah, want to compete.
But Peterson doesn't just leave us there.
No.
He doesn't just say, okay,
Right.
well, you know, you're stuck with your biology.
Right.
He also talks about
It does.
this importance of personal responsibility,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to honesty.
It's huge.
So why is honesty such a big deal for Peterson?
Well, he sees lying as rejection of reality,
Okay.
a way to avoid responsibility. And it just complicates our lives.
Okay.
Each lie we tell creates this tangled web.
Right.
It takes more and more energy to maintain.
It's exhausting
It really is.
to keep track of all your lies.
Right. And truth,
Yeah.
on the other hand,
Yeah.
it simplifies things.
Okay.
Just imagine if everybody was radically honest,
Oh, God.
including yourself.
Wow.
It would be
It would be a different world,
a different world.
but maybe a good one,
Right.
potentially.
Yeah.
So if everyone was honest.
It would be easier to make decisions,
Okay.
build trust,
Yeah.
navigate tricky situations.
That's interesting.
It is.
And he tells that story about the university professor
Yes.
who,
He clung to his ideology,
even when, like,
even when all the evidence was against him.
all the evidence was pointing in a different direction.
Exactly.
So what was going on there?
This professor refused to acknowledge the dangers of totalitarian regimes,
Okay.
even when his students were sharing their own experiences.
Oh, wow.
It really highlights how seductive ideology can be and how it can blind us to reality.
So it's like that professor
Yeah.
was so caught up in his own beliefs that he couldn't see what was right in front of him.
Couldn't or wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
It's a good question for all of us.
Yeah. What truths are we avoiding? And how might confronting them actually simplify our lives?
So is there something you've been putting off?
Could be a tough conversation you need to have.
Or even just like
Yeah.
taking an honest look in the mirror.
Yeah, an honest assessment of yourself.
And this idea of taking responsibility,
Yeah.
it extends to like one of the biggest challenges in life,
It does.
which is raising kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Peterson thinks that a lot of parents today are,
And he thinks they're too afraid to discipline.
they're afraid to discipline.
They prioritize their kids' comfort over their character.
Yeah, and he thinks that does more harm than good.
He does?
So what's the alternative?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries, teaching kids how to navigate the world,
Yeah,
and he sees discipline when it's done right
yeah.
as an act of love,
Okay,
not anger.
interesting.
Yeah, it's about giving kids the tools they need
Okay.
to thrive in a world that doesn't give out participation trophies.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And you had a personal story about this, about a time when a child hit your daughter.
Yeah.
And the conversation you had with the child's mother
Right.
really highlighted this.
Yeah, it showed that shielding kids from consequences
Yeah.
really hinders their development.
So Peterson's advocating for a balance
He is.
between nurturing and discipline.
Yeah, a parenting style that encourages both empathy and resilience.
That's a good point.
It is.
And I think it's something that we all need to think about,
I agree.
whether we're parents or not.
Right? Are we doing enough to instill a sense of responsibility in the kids around us and prepare them for the challenges they're going to face?
Yeah, because life is going to throw some curveballs.
It is.
So we need to
Got to be ready.
go ready.
Yeah.
But it's not just about shaping behavior.
No.
It's not.
Peterson also talks about.
He talks about imparting wisdom,
Okay.
and he sees storytelling,
Yeah.
especially myths and fairy tales,
Oh,
as
yeah.
powerful tools
Oh.
for conveying these life lessons and psychological truths. And the excerpts you highlighted were full of these references
they were.
to classic stories,
Yeah.
like Sleeping Beauty,
Mm-hmm.
The Little Mermaid.
Right.
What's the deal with those stories?
Well, Peterson argues that these tales,
Yeah.
they've been passed down for generations,
Yeah.
contain these profound insights
Oh, wow.
into the human psyche.
Okay.
They act as a blueprint for navigating the challenges of life,
Okay.
offering guidance on everything,
Yeah.
from confronting our fears to like separating from our parents.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So like Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, he interprets that as a metaphor for the challenges of adolescence.
Okay.
You know, highlighting that slumbering potential within each of us, waiting to be awakened.
Waiting to be woken up.
Yeah.
And The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, yearning for a different world,
Yeah.
you know, that speaks to this universal desire for transformation and the sacrifices we make for personal growth.
So it's like these stories are giving us clues
They are.
about how to live our lives.
They give us frameworks for understanding complex concepts
Yeah.
and navigating tough situations.
What about you?
Yeah.
Are there any stories that have really resonated with you?
Oh, yeah, there are definitely some.
And what did they teach you?
Well, they've offered me solace during difficult times.
Okay.
They've inspired me to pursue certain paths.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But Peterson doesn't shy away from
God, he doesn't.
some controversial topics. Like gender roles
Right.
and the patriarchy.
Yeah, those are hot button issues.
So how does he approach those?
Well, he acknowledges that culture influences gender roles,
Okay.
but he also emphasizes the significance of biology.
So it's not just one or the other.
It's not just one or the other.
It's both.
Yeah, it's nature and nurture.
Right.
It's complex.
And you told that story about the Indian man who invented sanitary pads for his wife,
yeah.
which is a really powerful example.
Yeah, it shows that individuals can challenge societal norms and drive positive change.
So sometimes you got to break the rules
Sometimes you do.
to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that story really illustrates
It does.
Peterson's point that we need to consider both biology and culture
We do.
when we're talking about gender.
Yeah, if we ignore either one,
Yeah.
we're not getting the whole picture.
We're not getting the full story.
Right.
And it seems like Peterson is always pushing us to look deeper,
Yeah,
question our assumptions,
absolutely.
and engage with the world in a more thoughtful way.
He wants us to think critically.
Yeah, but before we go any further,
Okay.
let's pause here for a minute
All right.
and just reflect on what we've covered so far.
Sounds good.
What ideas have resonated with you, and
Yeah.
how might these insights change the way you approach your own life and relationships?
Give that some thought.
Yeah, it's worth pondering.
It is. So we've been talking about how Jordan Peterson's ideas can really help us take control of our lives.
Yeah, like taking responsibility for our choices
Exactly.
and, really owning our actions.
Absolutely.
But you also highlighted some parts in 12 Rules for Life about the value of suffering
Oh, yeah.
and confronting our own limitations.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and that seems to kind of go against this idea
It does.
that we should always be striving for happiness.
Yeah, like we should always be comfortable.
Right, like just avoid pain at all costs.
Exactly.
But Peterson's saying,
He's saying that's not the way to grow.
so how do we actually become stronger then?
Well, he argues that true strength and resilience come from facing those challenges head on.
Okay, so it's like,
Yeah, it's like physical exercise.
okay,
You can't build muscle without stressing your body.
right. You gotta,
You got to lift those weights.
yeah, you gotta push yourself.
You got to push yourself.
So it's the same with our minds.
Exactly. You can't develop psychological resilience
Okay.
by avoiding difficult situations.
So it's about
It's about pushing our limits,
yeah,
both physically and mentally,
you become more resilient.
to forge a more robust sense of self.
But what about this idea of meaningful suffering?
Right.
It sounds kind of contradictory.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, how can suffering be meaningful?
Well, Peterson suggests that suffering is just an inevitable part of life.
Okay.
We all experience it.
Well, you do.
Loss, disappointment, pain.
Part of being human.
It is.
Good.
But we have a choice
Okay.
in how we respond to that suffering.
So we can either let it.
We can let it break us,
Yeah.
or we can view it as an opportunity
Yeah.
for growth and learning.
That's interesting.
Yeah, think about a time when you overcame a personal challenge,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was probably painful.
Yeah.
It probably also led to some greater self-awareness.
Right. And you come out stronger on the other side.
You do.
So it's about finding meaning
It is.
in that struggle.
Yeah, even if it feels uncomfortable in the moment.
And this connects back to
Your personal responsibility.
yeah, like we were
Yeah.
talking about before.
Right. Peterson's a big advocate for taking ownership of our lives.
Yeah, he says we're not just
We're not just victims of circumstance.
right. We have the power,
We have the power to choose our response
no matter what
to
has.
whatever life throws at us.
And he even goes so far as to say
He says.
that we have a moral obligation
Yeah,
to become better.
to become the best versions of ourselves.
Wow, that's a high bar.
It is a high bar.
And this responsibility,
Yeah,
it extends to our relationships too.
absolutely.
The excerpts you highlighted talked about choosing good partners and,
Yes.
and building strong relationships.
Yeah, which ties into his rule.
Yeah.
Make friends with people who want the best for you.
Right. So why is that so important?
Well, Peterson emphasizes surrounding ourselves with people who support our growth,
Okay.
who challenge us to be better.
It's about having people in your life
Yeah.
who inspire you
Who inspire you to reach your full potential.
and avoiding the people
Yeah.
who bring you down.
Absolutely avoid those who enable bad habits.
That makes me think about the people in my own life.
Yeah. Who are you spending time with?
Yeah, are they lifting me up?
Yeah.
Or are they holding me back?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah, it is.
And this applies to romantic relationships too.
Okay, so how do we choose a good partner?
Well, Peterson stresses the importance of shared values,
Okay.
mutual respect,
Yeah.
and a willingness to work through tough times together.
Okay.
He doesn't shy away from the hard stuff,
He doesn't.
like conflict, resentment.
We're tough.
They are. But he argues that conflict is inevitable
In any relationship.
in any close relationship.
But if it's handled the right way,
Yeah,
it can actually make the relationship stronger.
it can.
So it's about being willing to,
To communicate honestly,
yeah,
listen to each other,
yeah.
find solutions that work for both people.
So it's not about avoiding conflict.
No, it's about navigating it.
And it seems like he's encouraging us to really embrace the complexities of relationships.
The good and the bad.
Yeah, the joys and the challenges.
Exactly.
And to approach them with a sense of responsibility and commitment.
Yeah, like we talked about before.
Okay, so personal responsibility,
Yes.
meaningful suffering,
Mm-hmm.
choosing good partners.
Right.
These all seem to connect back
They do
to Peterson's view of the world.
to his worldview
And he sees the world as,
as a fundamentally chaotic and unpredictable place.
yeah, that's how it feels sometimes.
It does.
So how do we make sense of all this chaos?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah, and how do we find meaning?
Especially in a world that often feels
Yeah,
random and overwhelming.
yeah, it can be tough.
So what does Peterson say?
He draws upon mythology,
Okay.
religion, psychology,
Too.
to argue that human beings are constantly trying to make sense of this chaos.
We're trying to find order.
We're trying to find order and meaning.
Amidst all the turbulence
Yeah, like we're trying to create a map.
in a jungle.
So how do we do that?
Well, he sees storytelling as a crucial part of this process.
Okay, so we're always looking for,
We're always searching for patterns
yeah,
and meaning in narratives,
whether they're,
whether they're ancient myths,
yeah.
captivating novels,
Mhm.
or even our own personal stories.
It's like we're wired
We're hardwired
to make sense of the world
through stories.
through stories.
Exactly.
But Peterson also warns us
It does.
about the dangers,
Ideology.
yeah, of those rigid belief systems.
Yeah, the ones that offer simple answers
Yeah.
to complex problems.
Why are those so dangerous?
Well, he views them as dangerous
Yeah.
because they can blind us to reality
Okay.
and lead to intolerance
Mm-hmm.
and even violence.
He specifically criticizes
He does.
Totalitarian systems.
Right. The ones that try to control every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Stifling individual freedom.
Yeah.
And creativity.
And this ties back
to his emphasis on truth-telling.
Right.
He sees truth as a defense against the allure of ideology.
So it's like telling the truth is an act of rebellion.
It is.
Against any system that's trying to impose
a false narrative.
On reality.
On reality, exactly.
But it's not just about...
It's not just about speaking truth to power.
Right.
It's also about being honest with ourselves.
Okay. So looking inward.
Yeah, Peterson encourages us to examine our own biases.
Okay.
Question our assumptions.
Be open to changing our minds.
When we get new evidence.
Yeah, and he even encourages us to listen to
those who disagree with us.
Yeah, which can be hard.
It can be really hard.
Especially these days.
So especially in today's world.
Where everyone's so polarized.
Exactly.
But he sees this ability
to
have civil discourse.
Yeah.
And to consider
the different viewpoints.
Yeah.
As essential for a healthy society.
Okay.
She cautions against echo chambers.
Right. Where you're only hearing what you already agree with.
Exactly. And the polarization that comes from that.
So it's about cultivating...
It's about cultivating intellectual humility.
Okay. Acknowledging that
we don't have all the answers.
Right. And being open to
learning from others.
Even if
we disagree with them.
This seems to be a big theme.
For years, this idea of intellectual humility.
Yeah.
It's a virtue.
Recognizing that.
We're always learning and growing.
Right.
We don't have a monopoly on truth.
And he encourages us to approach the world
with curiosity and an open mind.
Rather than clinging to
dogma and certainty.
Yeah. Be willing to say, I don't know.
I don't know.
Where I was wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah, and be open to new perspectives.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Where do we go from here?
So we've been talking about some pretty big ideas from Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, like taking responsibility for our choices.
Exactly. And finding meaning in a world that often feels chaotic.
Yeah, it can be tough to find that balance.
It can, but one idea that really stuck with me from the excerpts you highlighted was this interplay between chaos and order.
Okay, so what's that all about?
Well, Peterson uses these ancient myths and religious stories to illustrate this concept.
Okay, so like what kind of stories?
Well, he suggests that chaos represents the unknown.
Okay, the unpredictable.
Right. The things we can't control.
The stuff that keeps you up at night.
Exactly. And order represents structure.
Okay.
Routine, the things that provide us with security and stability.
So it's like...
It's like the yin and yang.
Okay.
These opposites that are interconnected.
Yeah, we need both.
We need both for wholeness.
Right, like too much chaos
can lead to anxiety.
Okay, feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, even a sense of meaninglessness.
There's too much order.
Can lead to stagnation.
Okay.
Boredom. A lack of growth.
So it's about...
finding that sweet spot, the balance between structure and spontaneity.
He uses that analogy of exploring a new city.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
You need a map.
You need a map for navigation.
Right.
But you also want to leave room for those serendipitous discoveries.
Yeah, you got to be open to the adventure.
Exactly. You got to wander off the beaten path sometimes.
And this ties back to
Peterson's ideas about personal responsibility and meaning-making.
So we're not just along for the ride.
No, we're not just passive bystanders.
Okay, so we have a say in how our lives unfold.
We do. Peterson believes we have the power to shape our own lives.
To create meaning and purpose.
Even in the midst of uncertainty.
So we're not just reacting.
We're not just reacting to the world.
We're actually shaping it.
We're shaping it.
It's like we're artists.
Yeah, we're constantly creating
and recreating
our own realities.
That's a cool way to think about it.
It is. And Peterson connects this creative process to our biology.
Okay, to like our brains.
Yeah, specifically the prefrontal cortex.
That's the part of the brain that's
responsible for planning.
Okay.
Decision-making, abstract thought.
So that's the part that makes us human.
It's a big part of it.
And it helps us.
Helps us navigate the complexities of the world.
Oh, okay.
Anticipate challenges.
And come up with solutions.
Exactly. We're hardwired to be problem solvers.
We're like little chaos busters.
We are. Peterson sees this as fundamental to what it means to be human.
So it's in our nature.
It is.
To try to create order.
And a chaos.
But he also cautions us about the dangers of
nihilism.
What's that?
That's the belief that life is meaningless.
Okay.
And our actions don't matter.
So, like, what's the point?
Right. But Peterson argues that even in the face of all this suffering and uncertainty,
we still have a choice.
We do. We have the choice to create meaning and purpose.
So it's not predetermined.
No. It's
up to us.
It's up to us.
And this choice isn't just personal.
It's not. It affects everything.
It affects our relationship,
Our communities,
the world around us.
our choices ripple outward.
So we have a responsibility.
We do a responsibility to choose wisely.
And this connects to
Peterson's ideas about virtue.
Okay, so what does he mean by virtue?
Well, it's not just about following rules or being a good person.
It's more than that.
It's about striving to become the best version of ourselves.
Okay.
To live a life that's aligned with our values.
And to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, it's a journey.
A journey of self-discovery and growth.
So we're all works in progress.
We are.
The goal isn't perfection.
No, it's about continuous striving.
Learning.
Becoming more than we were yesterday.
I like that.
It's a powerful message.
It is. And it seems like Peterson is really challenging us.
He is.
To not just think differently.
But to live differently.
Yeah, to put these ideas into action.
To step into the unknown.
With courage.
And a commitment to creating a better future.
That's inspiring.
It is.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into 12 rules for life, what has resonated most strongly with you? That's a good question. And what insights will you carry forward?
Take some time to reflect on that.
Yeah, we hope this has sparked some new ideas.
And inspired you to keep exploring.
These big questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Remember, stand up straight.
Tell the truth.
And keep striving for that balance.
Between chaos and order.
Until next time.